all of this combined constellation stuff, and none of it is really given like any analysis, and you can't really push anybody from one way or another in terms of like reevaluating any of the beliefs that are part of this constellation. Okay, so here's the breakdown of this fucking mealy mouth methamphetamine induced tirade. What Destiny's trying to get across here, and he could do it in seconds, is that people sometimes have incoherent political beliefs, because if they don't start with a baseline ideology and stack up from there, they end up having incoherent problems inside of their belief structure.
We have one of our favorites on After Show Carnage. Andrew Wilson is back, and this time against he's reacting to one of our other favorites, Stephen Bunnell, Destiny. Andrew Wilson is one of the best out there. I know I'm going to trigger the Andrew Wilson's fans. It's not a diss. I think he's great. He's right under Dave Smith. I'll see you in the comments. But the Crucible is representing. This is Destiny on with Jordan Peterson, Daily Wire. There's a reason why, in my opinion, Destiny is not critical of Israel. It's because that would close the door to a lot of opportunity and money for him, and he doesn't want those problems in the alt media space. Destiny, Stephen Bunnell, doesn't want problems with Daily Wire. I think Andrew Wilson, I don't think he has any F's to give. What I like about this is he's going to talk about ideology, consistency. Let's get into it. Andrew Wilson, Crucible, reacting to Destiny, Stephen Bunnell, on with Daily Wire, Jordan Peterson.
I know that summary wasn't nearly as good. And then the Jenga, and what about the Jenga? We got the Jenga of political belief and the constellations in the political belief. You have to understand that sometimes they don't match up in the proper way, and I would think that they would have a proper epistemic foundation as we were moving the Jenga pieces up into the constellation of stars, and my mouth keeps on doing this, and it's
Now, the signal for released entropy, which would be a consequence of, say, violated fundamental beliefs, is a radical increase in anxiety, right? And a decrease in the possibility of positive emotion. And so people will struggle very hard against that, which is exactly the phenomena that you're describing.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with what you said. Although,
so here's my
so I'm not sure why it's relevant to the issue I was pursuing.
I'm getting.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Here's my issue. Okay, so when I'm trying to evaluate a situation, I like to think that I have I've got some insulation from the effects of what liberals think or what conservatives think. Is because on my platform, I don't necessarily have an allegiance to a particular political ideology. Like right now, I'm like center left to progressive, but I break really hard from progressive on certain issues. I think Kyle Rittenhouse is on the right. I think basically everything you guys are doing with indigenous people is insane, including the complete mass grave hoax. I think that I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. I have beliefs where I can break from my side, pretty hardcore.
That's true.
Because I am not like allegiant to certain political ideology.
That's true, but you also have I can break because I feel like I'm consistent. You tell me if I'm not. I believe that power should be distributed to as many people as possible. So that's how I view the lens of everything. Yeah, you can't call me Republican, Democrat, MAGA, or left or right or whatever else.
Ideology.
So for one thing, nobody is completely unbiased. It's nonsense. Anybody who tells you that they aren't, or that their worldview is not informed by some particular set of beliefs, in this case for Destiny, it would essentially be degeneracy. That would be one of the informants of his belief. He can break away from political issues external to degeneracy, like the Second Amendment, which has very little to do with it, and break ranks. It doesn't hurt his neoliberal ideology. But no, he's as biased as they come. It just depends on what it is you're asking him about. But his worldview, his grounded worldview, his actual epistemology is that he's a moral nihilist. He kind of LARPs as a utilitarian, but he's a moral fucking nihilist, dude.
One thing that worries me with this constellation beliefs thing is that sometimes when it comes to evaluating a particular policy or a particular problem, I feel like it's part of the constellation, and sometimes it inhibits people from like taking a step back and reasonably thinking about the issue. So when we're talking about climate change, you mentioned the WEF sacrificing tons of people, the UN, global elites, 5 times energy costs in Germany, genocidal people. I feel like this is part of like a whole thing where it's like, okay, well, let's take a quick step back And let's just like think rationally about this particular issue for one moment. Okay.
Well, you asked me what the motivation for anti-poor policies might be, so that's why I was.
Well, I
trying to
did,
flesh that out.
but I got all of those things before I even asked that question, because I think it's totally possible.
Give a like on the channel, subscribe, comment. I think what's happening here with Destiny, separate from Andrew Wilson and the Crucible, is Destiny is trying to foster a relationship with Daily Wire. This has been ongoing for quite some time. Candace Owens went on. He went on with Ben Shapiro. He doesn't challenge them in any way. He was surprised when Candace Owens challenged him, because I think that there's supposed to be this unspoken word that we don't really make each other look bad. It's almost like Tyson throwing that fight. I'm just going to throw and pretend like I'm fighting, but I'm just going to get paid and we're going to be out. And that's what Destiny's doing here. He didn't challenge. Destiny doesn't challenge Ben Shapiro. That makes no sense. He treated Ben Shapiro like he was his father. And here he is again, treating Jordan Peterson like he has reverence for him. This is an act by Destiny.
Possible that somebody might say, okay, well, when you put carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it seems to cause an increase in surface temperatures. This has been happening.
I just want to let you guys know out there, for you aspiring debate bros, I'll do this myself even, right? There is a good way to navigate sometimes these conversations where you don't want to firm up a position or say something as being particularly true, even as you're saying it's true. And that's with the word seems. There is a political philosophy out there. It's just a philosophy, but is being utilized more and more in the political sphere, called phenomenal conservatism. Has nothing to do with conservatism at all. What phenomenal conservatism is based around is what are called seemings. Something seems this way, you act as though it is this way until proof of the alternative is demonstrated to you. Now, that's a Reader's Digest version. But you'll see in almost all of Destiny's exchanges, and then you'll see it from Not So Erudite, you'll see it from many of these people. They say the word seems a lot because it doesn't marry them to a position. Instead, what it does is it gives them a way to slip out by saying, well, it seemed that way. I'm not saying it is, it just seems to be. But the person external who's watching thinks that you are affirming that position. It's a snaky tactic, one to watch out for.
This is fascinating to watch. One of the best debate bros out there, arguably the best. Many would argue that out there analyze Destiny, and I never noticed that. And then after I heard this, he says that a lot. Now, it could be just one of those things you just say too, and he's not doing it consciously. But in the debate bro circle, I wouldn't be surprised if Destiny's doing that on purpose. Let's get back to the clip. Andrew Wilson, Crucible, back reacting to Stephen Bidnell on with Jordan Peterson, Daily Wire.
About the 1800s, and as we started to track surface temperatures, whether the thermometer is on top of the Empire State Building or in the middle of a field, it seems like there's an average.
It seems.
There you go.
It seems like there. Why can't it just be there is a blank?
Yep.
Why does it seem that way?
Rise in temperatures, and people all around the world are observing this. In some places more than others. If you live in Seattle,
stop them when they do that. Actually stop them and make them firm up the positions. One of the reasons these people hate me, because I'll do this to them all the time, right? It just drives them fucking crazy. I'll stop them in the conversation right there. I'll say, wait, stop. Is it that way, or does it seem like it's that way? And they lose their fucking minds. They lose their mind. They don't even know what to say.
And 20 years ago, your apartment building wasn't built with air conditioner units. You feel that now. If you live in a place in London and you've never had an air conditioner before, now that's not acceptable. I think that people on the ground can see that there are changes. And I think that scientists, when they look in labs, can see changes. It might be that some models aren't precise enough. And it might be that for reasons we don't even understand.
Well, the economic models certainly aren't precise enough.
Sure, maybe that might be true.
Maybe. They can't even use them to predict the price of a single stock for 6 months. The economic models are not sufficiently accurate to calculate out the consequences of climate change over a century.
And
not in the least.
I like the comparison because economic models can't predict individual stocks, but they do predict the rough rise of the market. If you invest in the S&P 500,
now notice here he's saying something that he is sure about, or he thinks he's sure about. So he doesn't say it seems like they do. He says they do, right? You can really mess these people up really bad if you stop them mid-conversation and say, does it seem that way or is it that way?
Yep.
And just kind of watch them. They'll spurg out about it because nobody ever does it.
You remember, did you see that when Andrew Wilson was on the Culture War with Luke Beasley? Guys, we like on After Show Carnage. I like Luke Beasley, like Andrew Wilson. And Andrew Wilson called him Spurgly. I thought it was funny, at least the first couple times. But let's get back, finish this clip off with Andrew Wilson.
On
Get
cataclysmic collapse.
Nope. Even with the cataclysmic collapse accounted for, you're going to see about 7% returns on average with inflation over
I
long
wouldn't
periods
call
of time.
an average a very sophisticated model analogous
That's
to
fine,
a
but
climate change.
that's the difference between climate and weather, though, right? Is that climate isn't going to tell you what the temperature is on a given day, but it might tell you the average surface temperature over a period of 1 year or 10 years. And then that's the difference between climate and weather. That's the difference between like the market and
hypothetical
stuff.
difference.
It is a hypothetical, but again, we're seeing more and more and more data every single year that things are getting hotter and hotter.
Let's jump out of our cloud of presuppositions for a minute.
They're doing this act, Jordan Peterson and Destiny. It's almost like I don't think it's scripted, obviously, but it's almost like that.
Sure.
Now, one of the things that...
Or no, wait. Before we do that, actually, because I don't want to say,
that's fine.
There are some things.
It's corny. It's not a real debate. We listen to debates all day on After Show Carnage. You tell me, does that sound like a real debate?
That we've gotten as a result of investing in green energy that have been good. So for instance, the power of solar energy has dropped dramatically in the United States, faster than anybody thought possible.
Yeah, but nobody uses that shit still. It's true. It has dropped in price because the government has invested tons and tons of money into it.
Yep.
But most people don't use that shit. Think about this, right? Most of you out there right now. You don't know anybody using solar energy for basically any fucking thing.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't know. They're not using it for nothing.
Heavily subsidized by the government. Also, you'll see guys walking around neighborhoods selling solar, and part of their selling piece is, well, if you're in the blue state will pay some money, or the government has money on top of that and get your rebates. Same with electric cars as well.
Nothing. Or they have one solar panel on the roof or something. You know what I mean?
That solar energy is like competitive or beating fossil fuels in certain areas. As long as you can set the solar panels up, you're literally beating fossil fuels.
Yeah, and as long as the sun is shining.
Yeah.
Well, it still is. We're not a nuclear winter yet.
No,
so.
but it isn't when it's...
Yeah, but we're not a nuclear winter. No, but there are places where the sun doesn't shine that often. Gary Newman sends in $5, says the combined pharmaceutical potency in that room. It's like looking at the past, arguing with the future.
Great comment.
Well,
yeah, we talked about that, I think, a little bit on the Michaela Peterson one, where Candace Owens and Michaela Peterson got into it because of her dad right there, Jordan Peterson. She called it a dependency, I think, and we might look at it as an addiction. I don't know what the difference really is, but he had a problem with using a certain medication too often. And Destiny, I don't think we know for sure. I haven't heard him specifically talking about it, but we know he's probably hopped up on something. That's why his jaw looks like that and works like that. But he's still a brilliant mind, still enjoy watching his content, and he's one of the best out there. Let me know what you think. Andrew Wilson, break it down. Is that interesting to you? He almost broke down, like, if I was debating him, here's what I would do. Have they debated? Has Andrew Wilson and Stephen Bonnell, Destiny, have they ever debated before? I haven't seen it. I'm not aware of it. But we saw Dave Smith go at it with Andrew Wilson, and that wasn't really a planned debate, but they had a discussion. I hate that it has to be marketed as a debate. I just want them to have a discussion. Why does it have to be marketed as a debate to get clicks and views, whatever? Who would win? Let's leave on that. I think we all know. Andrew Wilson, the Crucible.
The next clip is ready below. Welcome to After Show Carnage.